Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews with connections in mind, and welcome back to another installment of I've Never Seen It Before. This is just a series of reviews of films that I've been meaning to see for quite some time that came out relatively recently or many years ago that I've been meaning to see but just haven't gotten around to it until now. This time around, in the month of October, it is the season of horror films and all whatnot, and I decided to watch a film that I've been meaning to see for quite some time, The Evil Dead, the original 1981 film directed by Sam Raimi and starring Bruce Campbell, about a group of teenagers or college students, going to a cabin in the woods and inadvertently summoning demons. I mean, who doesn't, right? And it's all about the story of how Bruce Campbell, our main character, Ash, trying to survive this onslaught of demons who are taking possession of his friends, and how he might even get out alive. Now, I'm not a humongous horror person. I have never been one for jump scares, or I might consider myself a fair lightweight when it comes to scary images. However, I am a fan of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, and even 3, yes, and for what it is. And when I was growing up, I didn't know that it wasn't until later in life that I found that Sam Raimi. Oh yeah, I had heard about that Sam Raimi. He basically made his career off of. He was more known for the Evil Dead trilogy, Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness, I believe. And I've been meaning to see this for quite some time. I've read a whole bunch about Evil Dead, like movie history and stuff. The fact that he shot this movie with a relatively low budget for the time, and it made an insane amount of money. And, well, not necessarily all at once, I believe. Actually, I should say that it became a cult classic and essentially made his career. Hence, that I believe Evil Dead was his first feature debut. I could be wrong about that. One of his very first films, and it basically started his lifelong friendship with Bruce Campbell, and hence why he got cameos in all 3 of his Spider-Man films. This film is really, I believe, a lesson on what you can do with a low budget in a confined space and still be scary and effective scares. The low budgetness of this film is fairly obvious. The production design. Most of the scares in this film are practical effects, and obviously, and this film actually, I mean, some of the scares are some of the more basic things that you can get, like creepy imagery such as blood coming out of a plug socket. I mean, that's really simple to do on screen, and it's fairly effective. My personal favorite, the blood dripping down the inside of the light bulb. I thought that was pretty effective. There's also some great character work in this as well. They don't, obviously, in a typical horror movie, they don't really develop everyone too much. It's fairly obvious going in that most of these people are going to get killed somehow, and we don't want to have to spend too much time developing them to know that they're going to be dead, or in this case, dead and possessed. But I thought it was very clever when they developed the relationship between Ash and now I can't remember his girlfriend's name, but in the beginning of the film, before all this stuff goes down, he has this cute scene where he's trying to surprise her with a gift of a necklace with like a little mirror pendant, and they do a cute little number where he pretends to be asleep, and she's trying to pry it out of his hand, and then we go back and forth between he's opens his eyes to when she's not looking to watch her, and then when she turns back, he closes his eyes quick again, and they go do that a couple times, and then he finally catches them. It's a cute little moment. And then there's a good callback later on in the film when the girlfriend is dead and possessed, or presumed dead, possessed, and Ash has to go and bury her. But they also do another quick cutback where it's revealed that the girlfriend is not, in fact, dead, and her possession is still going on. She opened her eyes, you see the possession eyes, but only when Ash is looking away and digging, and then they do that a couple times. I thought that was a great callback, a good job, and very effective as well. I think Sam Raimi knew going in that building chemistry with these characters didn't have to take much, but it was just the right touches at the right moments that made us care about these characters, and mainly Ash and his relationship with his girlfriend, his struggle to do what has to be done, such as we really feel his torment when when he's trying to shoot her with the shotgun, but B, more importantly, when they take good times, like strapping her down in the chains in the murder shed or whatever, that's all I like to call it, and then picking up the chainsaw, about to use it, and then just can't do it. I felt that viscerally. I thought that he did a good job with that. Overall, I thought that, again, the most basic scares, they don't have to be like crazy special effects. They don't have to be jump scares all the time, which, although I will say this film does tend to rely a lot on the jump scares and tends to draw them out to a point where, yes, they kind of telegraph, yes, I know there's a jump scare coming, and you're drawing it out, and it is always kind of an art, as found in horror movies, of how long you could potentially draw out a jump scare before it actually happens, and because every audience member at this point knows that it's coming, it's just a matter of when, and there is a certain art to the tension of, well, it has to happen sometime. You can't draw it out too long, and it can't happen too short. You have to be somewhat unpredictable, and I think Sam Raimi did mostly a good job at that. And there were a couple instances where it was fairly obvious when it was going to come, like when Cheryl, I think, burst through the door near the end. That was fairly predictable. Other than that, most of some minor negatives, I thought. The ending of this, it really just got really goofy at the end, honestly. And I believe I haven't seen Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness, but I believe correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they lean more into the goofiness aspect of it, where he was trying to be a little more serious here, and he kind of failed just because of the limitations of his budget and the times. But the way Cheryl and the other guy's name, forget it, and how they end up going out, and the demon or whatever, dissolving them, and it really just does, it looks silly, very low budget, and at certain instances, it just seemed like it was gory for its time, overly gory, I think, and some of them, it just seemed like an excuse to throw corn syrup blood all over Bruce Campbell. And I mean, if you want to do that, go for it. It just seemed a little silly. And again, like, it just went on and on and on, and it's like, okay, you threw the book in the fire. The new zombies are dissolving now. Great. Why are we prolonging this? And then hands explode out of them, and then the demon flies away. What? Okay. So that just seemed a little odd to me. I'm sure they explain it later in the other movies, but again, this is my first time seeing this. I've only read some, like, the behind the scenes things of this, and I don't remember all of it perfectly. So coming into this with fresh eyes, I would have to say Evil Dead is a solid horror film, and I can see why it's referred to as a cult classic, and I can see why it was very popular at the time it launched Sam Raimi's career. Again, it's an effective horror movie. Most horror movies aren't really big budgets, and that's probably because this film was probably one that showed them why it doesn't have to be that big, and you can be effective with just a little creativity. For example, I thought that some of the music cues were pretty effective, like near the end when he's getting a little creative with his camera angles and looking at him from above the roof, and you get that weird chord every time that plays every time it crosses a beam in the ceiling. I thought that was pretty effective, and I thought that even in the beginning, when I didn't realize right away that the thumping sound was coming from the porch swing bumping up against the house repeatedly. I thought that was really effective in building up some sort of tension. And again, this is all pretty effective. I thought that this, again, horror is not really my huge thing, but I would say I appreciate it for the craft that it did, and I look forward to looking at Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. Really quick, some analysis as to where you might have seen this before, at least where I drew some comparisons to. Again, with these more retro films that I see, I try to compare it to films that are around the time of its release or before. I try to compare it to things that have come after that. Like, for example, the fact that this film is centering around a group of people in a cabin surrounded by evil presences, and they're getting picked off one by one and slowly becoming the enemy themselves. I feel like this whole thing was basically kind of a different take and a riff on Night of the Living Dead, the George Romero film with the zombies. Again, different circumstances, obviously, but I thought there was definitely some comparisons to be made there. And of course, this movie came around right around the same time as Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I think that's fairly obvious with how it showed the face dissolving things at the end. Again, not the same quality. I prefer Raiders of the Lost Ark over this for sure, probably because that had it made them look better because it had a much bigger budget, I think. But other than that, I think those are just some minor points of comparison we made there. But if you've seen Evil Dead, the original, what did you think of it? Did you like it? Do you not like it? Do you agree with my points of comparison? Did I miss any points of comparison that are readily available? Again, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. My next new release movie review, which will be for Terminator Dark Fate, which comes out November 1st. For the month of October, however, I watched Evil Dead, I enjoyed it, and I hope to do another. I've never seen it before for both Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. Those will be separate videos coming up later in October. So just to get into the Halloween spirit of things. Again, thank you so much for watching. And if you like what you see here or anywhere else on my channel, any of the videos that I've posted thus far, please give me a like, share, and subscribe. I'd very much appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for watching. But just remember, there is nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have seen it before.